Welcome to the Inspired Evolution, and it is such a treat to be here today. Today we have with us Rajesh Setty. Rajesh, how are you?
I'm doing very good. I'm excited to be here.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. For those tuning into, can I call you Raj or is it Rajesh?
Yeah, definitely. Raj is good.
For those tuning into Raj for the first time, he's a serial entrepreneur. He's an author and a teacher based in Silicon Valley. He gives incredible talks, which are definitely worth listening to, which is what inspired me to connect with you here today. But we were just having a chat just before, and you wrote your first book at the age of 13.
Yes. I have a chronic writing problem, which is actually a bug, but I call it a feature.
So tell us, where did this bug get installed? Who installed this bug?
It was mostly because I read so many books, Amrit, that I somehow was fascinated by reading, and I read close to 700 books by the time I was 9.
Wow.
And they were small books, little books, big books. It's all in multiple languages. So all I used to like was thrillers, mysteries, fantasies. I just would get transported into those stories that I would live them. And I used to play a game with myself saying, I know what will happen in this novel.
Yeah.
I know exactly where will be the treasure, or who is the killer, or how do they find, do they get married, do they not get married? I used to always think that I know exactly what happens, and most of the time something else would happen.
So most of the time you were wrong.
I was really unhappy about it. And then I said, the easiest way to solve this problem is I write my own novel. I can decide what the characters will do, who is the killer, or who will get married, or who will not get married.
Yeah.
I choose the plot, I choose the direction. So I started writing one when I was 10. And then I wrote a 200-page book. It took me about 8 months at that time.
Wow.
And then the madness started, saying that I'm going to pitch this to a publisher. And within days, I will have a red carpet welcome to the publishing world, because, how many people will write book at a time? So they just love me, is what I thought. That was farthest from the truth. So I won't bore you with all the details, but over 3.5 years, I got rejected 160 times.
Whoa.
I didn't have a degree, but almost I had a PhD in how to get rejected. Non-stop rejection. And when I was 13, finally I got one publisher.
Wow.
Who said, I'm going to publish this book. How much do you want? And that was a question I was not prepared to answer, because it has never been asked before, because most of the time it will be go away kind of thing, right?
Yep.
So I thought for a minute and said, I want 100 rupees. He almost got a shock out of his life. Are you sure? That's the deal. I want 100 rupees. For those of them who don't know what is 100 rupees means, it's less than $2.
Yeah, it's $2 on a good day.
So that is how I got my first book published when I was 13 years old.
Nice. And what was the book on?
It was a murder mystery.
So fiction.
My first few books were fiction.
Yeah.
And I got 6 books published before I was 17.
Wow. And then you said your first few books were fiction, and then you started writing non-fiction?
Yeah. So even in the first 6 books, one was a book on mathematics, and the other was a collection of poems. And then my mom got worried that I'll become a writer. So, Indian moms, she got really
engineer.
Yes. He gave me 3 choices, Amrit. Choice number 1 is engineer. Choice number 2 is a doctor.
Yeah.
Choice number 3 is a loser.
No.
And you can pick any one of them, but at least let me know what it is so that I won't fret on it.
Yeah, wow.
Choice number 3 was a decoy choice, obviously. Because you want to break your mom's heart. I picked to become an engineer.
Yep, awesome.
And I did very well.
Beautiful.
And then later...
Is that what took you to Silicon Valley?
No. So Silicon Valley was by accident. I'll get there. So as soon as I finished my engineering, myself and 2 of my friends started a company. Or, just to be clear, attempted to start a company will be the better way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that how much we don't know,
Mm.
we didn't know.
Yeah, of
So that's
course.
the level of ignorance.
But you don't realize until you start doing things that you need to know.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So uh, later I realized what was the real problem.
Mm.
First thing, at that time I felt like one blind person was leading the other two blind people, right? But real problem was this. I was good in my studies.
Mm.
I was good in my education. Every
Mm.
single exam, there was a public exam, I got a rank in the for a state or for the nation. But I was good in both of them. Why did I fail as an entrepreneur? Is
Mm.
because very simple that when you're very good in the solo sports, entrepreneurship is a team sport. So you
Mm.
cannot transport things from one kind of a sport to another kind of sport. It's almost as big of a job as I'm really good in the kitchen and let me
Mm.
fly a plane kind of thing.
Yep.
It's not works. It does not work that way.
Yeah, that's a
And
really
then
profound insight. Yep.
the problem there was that because I was already slightly famous because of my education and everything, so people around me would not let me give up very quickly. So
Mm.
they would say, "Hey, you are so smart, Raj. You cannot give up. You should try hard." So it's like if you don't know what you are doing, trying hard will not help, isn't it?
Yep.
So it's like running in the wrong direction. You will
Yeah, you're
only
just
give
running on
you
a hamster wheel, getting you nowhere fast.
exactly. So finally, it was like a death by a thousand cuts. But I learned a lot in the whole
Mm.
process. I learned a lot,
Yep.
and now I'm happy that I failed so many times early.
Yep.
So I always think that everybody has a failure quota in their life.
Mm.
So which means they fail, and they accumulate finish up the failure quota, and then remaining will be success quota.
I love that perspective.
Because I always twist facts to my convenience. Because
That's a
anyway, so
disclaimer.
many things are made up. So I might as well make up something that is.
Serving you.
You
Yeah, I get it. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, so it's an interesting thing that you're mentioning in terms of the relationship with failure. You mentioned already, like, there's 160 times, you face rejection. So you had a PhD in that, and then obviously trying to establish your own entrepreneurial venture. There was challenges in and around that. I like it's something that has been recently forming for me. It's taken some time. I've had this awareness for a while that failure is key to success. They are next door neighbors. They're two sides of the same coin. That in order to succeed, you must fail again and again and again and again. Because if you're not failing, you're not in the arena. It
Yes,
means you've put you're not holding the bat, you're not holding the ball, because you didn't, like, some matches you win, some matches you lose. But if you don't lose any matches, it means you're not playing any matches. You know what I mean?
correct.
And so
Correct. I have
it's
one thing to add on the failure.
Mm.
As long as you are growing in your attempts, failure is good.
Mm.
But if your failure is because you don't want to try hard enough, or you just want to clock the machine just for the sake of a counter,
Yeah.
won't help. Like the failure has to be at the edges of your comfort zone. Only
Mm.
then there is growth. If the failure is in the middle of your comfort zone, then that means you are just doing it because somebody said you have to fail 9 times to get to 10 times you are successful. And then you end up doing 9 times wrong things.
Yep.
Then it won't count.
Mm. Yep. I see what you're saying. And so on that journey, like, what have been some of the biggest lessons that have precipitated? What are some of the biggest lessons that have precipitated for you through your failures?
How much time do we have?
Okay, the top two.
There are so many things that I learned, and I live my life with those lessons.
Mm.
And if I ask you a question, for example, Amrit, what do you think is the greatest competitive advantage for a person? What skill will it be? So I've asked this question to so many people, and sometimes people say making things happen, and sometimes people say seeing things before other people see it.
Mm.
So there are a lot of good answers for it.
Mm.
Shall I give you my answer?
Sure.
It is your ability to give meaningful gifts at scale at a very low incremental cost to you. So let me repeat it.
Mm.
It is your ability to give meaningful gifts
Mm.
at scale at a very low incremental cost to you.
Right.
Why is that? Let me elaborate on it. First of all, if there is an ability that will give meaningful gifts at scale, that means you have to be operating at your strengths.
Yeah, that
That's the
resonates.
first thing.
Yeah.
So to know that, you need to know how to know your strengths, which we'll get to that a little bit in a while. When you want to give it at scale, it has to be in the area of your strengths. And if it has to be at a very low incremental cost to you, it has to be at your strengths. Everything points to the things of giving gifts when you're operating at your strengths. Now, what happens if you really have this ability, what happens? So you become a walking Santa Claus. Why? Because you're giving gifts and dishing out gifts at scale. And I also said the word meaningful gifts, right? So it's not any kind of gift. It has to be a meaningful gift. What is a meaningful gift? A meaningful gift is one that will change the trajectory of the life, career, or business of the recipient in a really profound way.
Yep.
So how do we know that the gift is meaningful? There is a litmus test for it. Litmus test is like this. If you truly receive a meaningful gift, you will miss the giver of that gift in your past. Not in the future, but in your past. How does that happen? I'll ask you a question. Amrit, do you know every single teacher that taught you from your kindergarten? Every single one of them?
No, not every single one of them.
But do you know some of them?
Yes.
Okay. Of the some of them, I won't even have to ask you. They fall into two categories. Either they were very bad or they were extremely good.
I only remember the good ones.
The good ones, you remember them, and at least one or two of them, you would feel so deeply touched by them, and you wish you met them a few years before you met them. That is missing in the past.
Yeah, beautiful.
So a meaningful gift is one that will make you miss the giver of the gift, miss in the past.
Right. You wish you had it earlier. You wish they'd come by sooner.
Exactly. So now if you do that, here is what happens. When you truly give a meaningful gift, the receiver feels like reciprocating back. Now, if you're doing this at scale, you're making people miss you in the past at scale. That means they all want to reciprocate back to you. What does that mean? You have an oversupply of good help in your life. That is how you increase the odds of succeeding.
Because of the connections that you have.
Yes. Because on your own, suppose you want to climb the hill behind your home, then you can try to do it alone. But if you say, I want to climb Mount Everest, you need help. And you need lots of help. Not only you need lots of help, you need lots of good help.
You need equipment, you need strategy. Yep.
Yes, everything. And then you need to be able to get that help at the push of a button. How do you do it? Is because you do things in the past that will create a reservoir of reciprocation. That when when you push that button, the gates are open and the water river of reciprocation rushes in to give you the help that you need.
Right. And so distributing these gifts that you have, distributing your strengths at scale builds this reservoir of energy coming back, basically, is the way that you see this, right?
That is one. And then the second metaphor that I want you to want to share is called building blocks.
Building blocks. Okay, yep.
So if you see the Lego blocks, right? So if you see the Lego blocks, there are only a few of them in a bag. You bring a bag of Lego blocks. Maybe there are 100, maybe there are 500, but it's not 1 million, isn't it? It's just a few of them.
Yep.
But you can see with the right kind of knowledge, you can assemble those building blocks to make so many superstructures, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But if you extend that to life, life also can have Lego blocks kind of building blocks, but you have to build those building blocks because Lego, you can go and buy them. In life, you have to build them.
So what do these building blocks look like?
It could be very simple. A deep, trusting relationship is one kind of a building block.
Right.
So if you have, let's say, one or two people in your life who have a deep, trusting relationship, they are available to you 24/7. Right? And then they will give you the feedback that you need, not what you wish for, isn't it? So that becomes a building block.
Right.
You are building a building. Then a skill that is relevant and also something that will move the needle is a building block, which means, like, I'll pick an example of one of my skills is linguistic philosophy. I studied linguistic philosophy for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
And storytelling is another skill. Now, you combine the two. Linguistic philosophy, the concept is your world is built using your words. Storytelling is to make the person, you can seduce the person in a good way to take them to a destination that is right for them. It's also beneficial to you.
Yep.
A win-win. So now, that skill is a building block. So
right.
Why? Because I can say things that are memorable and transportable. So memorable is easy. Transportable is sometimes people miss it. I'll give an example. Shall I give an example?
Sure.
So for example, I say, Amrit, I love to build long-term relationships. If I say it, it is neither memorable nor transportable.
Yep.
Because it's like cliched statement and people say, okay, whatever. Everybody says that kind of thing.
Yep.
Now I want to put some punch in it. So let me change the words. I'll say something like this. Amrit, if I like someone, I'll give them a one-way ticket to my heart. And once they get to my heart, it's like Hotel California. Now, you see how much storytelling was put in, what kind of choice of words I used.
Yeah.
That means I love to build lifetime relationships. It's the same thing.
You said the same thing. Yep.
But now there is a punch in it.
Absolutely.
So that's a building block. So you collect these building blocks. There are lots of such building blocks like Lego blocks. And you pick the ones that you want to build, but you invest a ton of time, energy, money, and mind share in it. So when the time is right, you automatically use all of them to build a superstructure that you want.
Yep. Sweet. So there's a couple of things that are sitting quite pertinently for me in this conversation. Is the first one is your love for stories and writing the books of fiction and then writing so many stories, reading so many stories. Right. And then we're now talking about building blocks. And then, there's a whole rabbit hole that's available to us to dive into with linguistic philosophy, which I can't wait to go into. Right.
Yes.
But that's like a key building block in the tools of storytelling. And then in and around that, how does one, as a storyteller such as yourself, reconcile the fact that they're living a story in their life as well?
Yeah. First of all, it's all about stories in life. So basically, my friend used to tell me a tourist will find what he or she is looking for, right? So, for example, there is an old joke which I will share very quickly. Somebody comes to a new town and he says, he's very angry. He says, if you don't give me food to eat, I'll do exactly what I did in the previous town. You need to give food to eat, or I am going to do what I did in the previous town. And then the restaurant guy said, I don't want any mishaps here. He gives the food. Next day he comes, he says, even today I'm hungry. If you don't give me food, I'll do exactly what I did in the previous town. Gives the food. Finally, one person who is watching him, he said, sir, what exactly did you do in the previous town? He said, I just stayed hungry. So you see, the story, it seduces you, isn't it? And then you just want to know what's happening.
Totally.
So if you think about it, we live in stories because either we are telling stories to people around us or we are telling stories to ourselves.
Yep.
And how do we tell the stories? We tell in conversations, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
you're having a conversation with you, or if I'm not having a conversation with you, I'm having a conversation with myself about the conversation I had with you.
Totally.
Now, if you want to upgrade your life, there are only two conversations that you have to upgrade,
Right.
isn't it?
The
One is an
conversations.
internal conversation,
Yep, with yourself.
other is an external conversation. It's as simple as that.
I love that.
Let's take the external conversation. Whatever said and done, who you are having the conversation is the most important thing. That is equal or more important than the conversation itself.
Right.
Like if you are having a conversation with a drunkard, there is no point in upgrading the conversation with you. You won't even know what it is.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yep.
But if you are having a conversation with some really, really smart person, you have a better conversation, you come back as a better person. Isn't it? Now, in the external conversation, one is, let's assume that you got the who covered, somebody really smart.
Yep.
What are you going to have a conversation? Changes the whole thing. Like you can talk about politics or things that are not you cannot control anything about it, like weather, climate. Sometimes you can do something about it, but not really. So you can have all the conversations that are completely tangential to what you can do tomorrow morning. And then you can come back home and say, I had a phenomenal conversation. We talked about how to go to Mars and then how to change the climate thing and all these things. But if your wife asks, what will you do about it? Nothing. Just we had a good conversation. Means nothing.
Right.
But once you decide on the who, if you pick the what, where your capacity to produce results or make an impact goes higher because of that conversation, then it matters more, isn't it?
Yep.
And then the third thing in the conversation is there is talking and there is listening, isn't it? There are only two things that are happening. You're talking or you're listening. And sometimes you are processing and everything, but mostly talking, listening. How much were you listening will determine what new things get into your head. If I am not listening at all,
that's such an obvious distinction, but it's such a of course.
I just go back and I had a great conversation. Did you learn anything? No, but most of the time I was talking. Right? And probably you get better at what you are saying, but nothing new gets into the head.
Makes sense.
So that is the external conversation. In the internal conversation, you are only doing three things: about the past, about now, and about the future. There's nothing else you can think about, isn't it?
Sure.
So in that, now you decide what percentage of time are you spending in the past, present, or in the future. Obviously, the past, if it is used for reflection, present for planning, future for imagination, things go well. If you use past for blaming, in the present for manufacturing excuses, future for daydreaming, things won't go well.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Agreed.
And that's all there is. You master the two conversation, life is good.
Yeah. And the art of the conversation that you're having with yourself is weaving the story that you then tell yourself, which is then weaving the story that you end up enacting and living through your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, fascinating. So tell us more about this. Did your passion for linguistic philosophy come from all the storytelling? Is that really the bedrock of what brought you to linguistic philosophy? Or
no, it was more dramatic than that.
Okay. Yeah, tell me the story. Take us on the ride.
When I was in 2000, I started my first company in the United States. By 2002, first of all, 2000, if you remember, you are very young, but if you do remember the 2000, what happened, it was a disaster. The dot-com crash happened and everything. It was a hell in a handbasket, right? At that time, we started a company which will help people recruit better. Now, you can imagine how much wrong we could be. Everybody were firing people. We are telling them, oh, don't worry, we'll help you hire better people.
The right people.
Sorry. Now, it was a disaster, but we didn't give up. We morphed ourselves into some other company and we started selling solutions on open source and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
By 2002, we were in stable grounds.
Mm.
At that time, I said, I want an external board member.
Right.
And I'm going to find somebody really smart. My mentor at that time, his name was Sterling Lanier. And he said, knowing you are a creative person. You should meet my friend Stan Leopard.
Mm.
And he probably will be the right board member.
Yep.
And I had a meeting which was between 3 to 4 in Menlo Park. And I went there. The entire office had nobody. There was only one person. And his name is Stan Leopard. He's just a phenomenal person.
Mm-hmm.
He took me to a room. And there was some light music going on, Zen-like music.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, let's talk about you. Tell me about yourself and the company.
Mm.
For a storyteller, that's a dream opening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started talking. 3 to 3:45, I talked. Everything included. But he was patiently writing some notes.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 3:45, he stopped. He said, Raj, we have talked for 45 minutes. At this rate, you will continue to talk for one more hour, but only 3 to 4.
Yeah.
So you can do that. You can just continue talking. 4 o'clock, the meeting is over and there's nothing happens. Is it okay if I also talk?
Mm.
It was like a slap on the face, but I said, yes, yeah, definitely. And I started reading some from his notes.
Mm.
So it had 2 parts to it. The first part, he said, you came here to make me a board member. Let me tell you, I refused the offer. I'm not interested.
Oh, wow.
So we can end that conversation there. But if you want to know more, why? I'm happy to share, but it's up to you. Do you want to know more? He said, yeah. By this time, my face was a little bit small like this.
Yeah, hung. Yep.
I was thinking, what will he say? Then he dropped the bombshell. He said, I don't think you are fit to be the CEO of the company. If you want to know more, I'll tell you why. I said, yes. Then he started telling everything that I was doing wrong.
Mm.
I was thinking, the person does not know me from Adam. All he knows is my 45 minutes of monologue.
Mm.
How in the world was he able to make these assessments?
Yeah.
By this time, it was already 3:56 or something. He said, okay, we are done then. We are a few minutes early. So wish you all the best. I said, this cannot happen. I said, I want to know, is there any book that you read, or how did you come up with all these things? They're all right on the money.
Yeah.
I said, this is the problem you have. So the problem is you think everything is in a book and you can just read it and you can become a master.
Right.
You don't want to put in the real hard work. That's why I didn't offer you anything. I think we are done here. I said, and then it was at 3:58 or something. So he got up, making me also get up, right?
Social cue. Yep.
And then at the door, I asked him one question. We still have 1 more minute. Just give me a hint. Anything. And then try me. He said, I can tell you, but, I don't think you will do anything. But there is a course on linguistic philosophy with a company called the AGI Network. You can try to go there, or you don't have to, but just because you asked, I want to tell you. Yep. And then I said, okay. Then as soon as I closed the door, I Googled the AGI Network. It was somewhere in Los Altos. I directly drove there.
Yeah. Oh.
And knocked on the door. And I'm sure they were not expecting me. I knew it. But I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I said, I didn't say I have an appointment. I didn't tell a lie. I said, I'm just coming back from a meeting with Stan Leopard.
Yeah.
So, and then I stopped there. Oh, Stan sent you. I said, no, I just came from the meeting there. So they assumed something and they got me in. And I said, so how can we help you? I said, I want to join the course.
Yeah.
I said, what course? Whatever you are teaching. I want to join it.
Yeah.
He said, no, it won't work like that. You have to apply for it. And that's how the journey to the linguistic philosophy started. I studied there for several years, at least 4 or 5 years. And then on my own, I continued the study. And the entire conversation there was about distinctions.
Distinctions.
What does this really mean?
Right.
Like, for example, what does an organization mean? What does a structure mean? So if you know the organization and structure of a company, you can guess what is the capacity they have to execute on their dreams.
Right.
You can keep asking the question. Suppose I start asking you, I won't ask it now, but offline, suppose I ask you. So, Amrit, who are all there in your organization? And then you start telling. And then what do they do? And then you start telling. Before 15 minutes, I will know exactly how much capacity you have to perform on your, execute on your dreams.
Yep.
Because I've been trained linguistic philosopher.
Right.
Earlier, I wouldn't know.
Right. So how did linguistic philosophy help you with that?
So it's basically, for example, if I tell you a bicycle, if I say the word bicycle,
yep,
you know, without even asking you, I know that you got an image of something that has two wheels, not one above the other, but one in front of the other. And there is a handle, there is some pedals, there is some spokes and wheels. All those things you know, right? That's an organization. That's arrangement of a certain components in a certain order.
Yep.
Assuming that you are a mountain biker and I'm a casual weekend bicyclist, the bike looks the same, but the properties of individual components are different for you than me. Because mine is very simple. You have alloy wheels and then some gears and all those. I don't have all those things. But to look and feel is the same. The exact properties of the individual components is the structure. There is a difference between organization and structure.
Of course.
Depending on the stage of your company, Amrit, I can. My goal is to ask you a few questions and find out what is the organization and the structure. For example, if you are into high growth mode and then you are not investing enough on marketing, then I know some structural issues there in your company, isn't it?
Yep.
So you make assessments. You just find out the organizational structure and the space they are in and how competitive there is, and then their ambitions, and then see if the organizational structure fits that ambition or not. So that's how you get to make the conclusion. So that's exactly what he was doing when he said you are not fit to be a CEO. Not because I was not smart, because I had the wrong organization and wrong structure within my company.
Right. But doesn't linguistic programming imply that you're looking at language rather than organization and structure?
No, linguistic philosophy is about distinctions through language.
Distinctions through language. So how did that help you? So when someone says different parts, like when someone's articulating their organization and articulating the structure, you can discern through distinction what they're saying, what they're not saying. And that helps you diagnose exactly where things are at. And you have a clearer picture because you understand the words that they're using almost better than they are. Is that how you articulate it?
Exactly. See, for example, somebody says, I am pursuing an opportunity. I just ask them a few more questions and I will assess whether it is an opportunity or a possibility or a fantasy. But they will not be thinking on those lines. They may be misconstruing a possibility for an opportunity or a fantasy for an opportunity.
Right.
But I will see it. Do they have the structure and organization to pursue this as an opportunity? No. Is it a possibility? Yes. But sometimes it's not even ready. Oh, it's a fantasy. So by labeling it right, you have so much power.
Right. You can source information from the story.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. And so this has obviously been very useful going forward once you learned
Every
it.
single day.
Yep.
The other thing that has helped me a lot is I think of life as a game.
I love this. Yes. Tell me more.
Have you heard of a game called Go?
No.
So Go is a game, like a strategy game, which is about 5,000 years old.
Yep.
You obviously know chess. And if you think chess is 9 out of 10 in strategy, this will be 99 out of 10.
Wow.
So it is as deep as possible, but
Yep.
it is the closest thing to life and business. Closest thing to
Right.
life and business. In fact, if you learn the art of the Go game, it's played on a 19 by 19 board,
Mm-hmm.
and it has played with two stones, black and white. The black starts, and then the goal of the game, in the case of chess, what is the goal? It's to do a checkmate to the other king, right? So that's the goal of the game. It's to kill the other party. In the game of Go, it's a very collaborative dance.
Right.
You don't kill the other person, but you start collaborating with them, even though they are an opponent. But finally, you get a little bit more territory than the other person. That's about it. It's a territorial game. Now, if you think about it, so I place a black stone. Black always starts first. I place a black stone, and your turn, I will say, Amrit, it's your turn. And then you say, okay, there are 361 squares, and I used one of them. So there are 360 possibilities. You can place it wherever you want. But I cannot tell you, Amrit, we both are friends, but don't place the stone near my stone because it will be inconvenient for me.
Yep.
You will say, that's not possible. I'll do whatever I want and you'll place it wherever. Now, you cannot tell me, hey, Raj, it's okay, whatever happened, but you don't make it inconvenient for me. Please place it wherever you want, but not close to my stone. Again, you cannot say that, and it goes back and forth. I cannot tell you what you can do, but every time you place a stone, and based on the existing stones, the number of possibilities change for me.
Of course.
Isn't it? Because the board configuration has changed.
Yep.
Now you bring it back to life. You're playing the game of Go with the universe in life. You take an action.
Yep.
And then you wait for the universe to respond. You cannot tell the universe, please respond in the way exactly convenient. Respond however. But then it lets you choose your response however you want.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
So there is nothing else. The universe will not say, you cannot do it this way. I have all the choices that I have, and I can choose the best among the available options.
Amazing.
And the universe will do whatever it wants.
In response, yep.
All I can do is pick the best among the available possibilities in life. That's all there is. And as long as and not complain about how could they have done it. No, they will do whatever they want. Isn't it? That makes me, the last time I was angry, Amrit, I don't even remember. Because nothing makes me angry. Because I always think that they place the stone wherever they want. I can decide to place my stone wherever I want. And sometimes I manufacture anger because people think I'm a nutcase if I'm never angry. Somebody loses a deal in the company and they will say, we lost the deal, and I say, okay. And they will say, okay, that's it. So I will have to manufacture anger. I say, how the hell did we lose the deal? What is happening here? But in reality, I don't really care because
the stone is cast. Yeah,
the stone is cast, and that's why on my table in downstairs, I have 4 words that I am very clear about. I am here is the first 2 words. Full stop.
Yep.
Where next is the next word? Question mark. I am here will make me get into the mood of acceptance.
Yeah.
Because what else is there other than to accept it?
Mm.
There is nothing else you can do. If you don't want to accept the reality will not change, isn't it?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Reality does not even care whether you accept it or not. It is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah.
So you would rather accept it so that you are at peace with it.
Mm.
Where next will make me be in the mood of wonder.
Mm.
That is where all the possibilities emerge, in the mood of wonder.
Yeah, this is really fascinating because I spent 6 months, the first 6 months of this year, getting coached by Eckhart Tolle. And one of the key things that he took away out of everything, the synopsis kind of boiled down to 3 words. And the first one was acceptance. If you can really accept, like your life situation, then your inner purpose can connect to the outer purpose of the universe, where he disowns, purpose being as 2 separate things. You have your inner purpose and the outer purpose. And he said, if you can accept, you're in alignment. The next one is an enjoyment. If you are enjoying, then you are in alignment with the outer purpose, because otherwise there is no space for enjoyment and you feel out of alignment. And then he said the third one is also enthusiasm. This sense of energy, the way you feel like, okay, this is really potent. My inner purpose is in alignment, and you feel that enthusiasm. But I can see how the acceptance, I'm here, and then the joy and the enthusiasm, they speak to wonder. Where next?
Yes.
Very well. Yeah, this is beautiful.
It's always like that. And then if you have the curiosity of a kid, it's amazing. So even before we started the recording this session, all I was interested was, where are you going? What is your goal? Why? Because I'm always like a kid. So I just want to learn more. What is there? And then with all the tools and technologies that I have and the connections I have, who should I connect you to? That will be a mutual opportunity for each other. I don't want it to be one-sided, but I want it to be mutually beneficial. Because if I can do that, I create new possibilities for both parties. And how much did it cost? Nothing. Literally nothing. And why would I not do it? Because if I can spend literally almost nothing of my time, energy, money, and mind share, but create two new possibilities for people, why would I not do it?
So a couple of things that are coming up for me in that is, my kind of last 2 questions would be, firstly, cultivating that sense of curiosity, that sense of wonder, staying childlike. Is that a discipline?
Yes, it is a discipline. And also, it's like this. If you want, I said, your ability to give meaningful gifts at scale at a very low incremental cost, what was the first thing that I said? You need to know your strengths. And we can double click on it just so that we cover it. The second thing is listening. Like, how will I give a meaningful gift if I don't even know what the other person can
what they need. Yeah, totally.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm very curious, because otherwise I won't know what is meaningful to you. Isn't it? And once you start doing certain things over and over again, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Without you know it. So there are a few things. First, shall we double click on the strengths? How does one find out what is their true strength?
Sure.
So it's a really big problem for very smart people to know what is their true strength, because they take it for granted. When they do something so effortlessly, they think it's not big enough. Because
they're unconsciously competent.
Yeah. And then if they don't know it, they won't nurture it. So how do they know? There are 7 ways of doing it, but for the lack of time, I'll go to the last one, which is the most important thing, which is you notice the requests that are of high stakes that are coming your way without even you asking for them. What does that mean?
Sure.
Suppose you are a really good negotiator. You may not know it because you have taken it for granted, but people around you know it. They'll keep coming to you and say, Amrit, I'm buying this car, or I'm selling this company, or whatever it is, but the stakes have to be high. And then they'll come and ask you for help. What do you think we should do?
Mm.
And you start noticing them, and then you'll see a pattern emerging.
Yeah.
This is where the world sees me as my strength. Let me nurture it even more so that I can strengthen my strengths.
Amazing. That makes sense.
Isn't it?
Totally.
So that's why you need to know it. So if you don't know it, it will be a crime. I always ask those people, what is your superpower? And then they say, what is a superpower? Superpower is something you do effortlessly, but creates enormous value for other people. Now, somebody will say something, and most of them have to reflect on it. They don't even know. But let's assume that they know it.
Yep.
And let's say they say, my superpower is storytelling. Somebody says that. I always ask them, how are you using the superpower almost every single day to create value? So most of them are not doing it. I ask them, do you brush your teeth every day? What's this? An insulting question. How can I say it? If your teeth is that important, why is your superpower equally not important? Isn't it? If you take care of your teeth every day, don't you think you need to take care of your superpower?
Yeah.
Isn't it? You cannot say, I brushed it last week, this week I'm busy. No. You do it every single day.
It's interesting,
so I call it re-engineering the being. So many times people say, how do you create a habit? I say, no, you cannot create. Habits are 1.0. If you want 2.0 or 3.0, re-engineer your being. That you don't even think of it like a habit. You think of it like part of your operating system.
I love it.
So
forms your identity.
Yeah, it's in your identity, and you cannot say, I did it, because it's part of you. So you don't do anything, you just be. So now, in 2007, I studied yoga from Sadhguru. And then the teacher was a person called Namat. And then I asked Namat, Namat, if I want to do this for the rest of my life, how many days should I do it? And then immediately I said, what's a silly question? If I want to do it for the rest of the life, there is no question. But then I realized the question I wanted to ask her was, for it to become my second nature, how many days does it take?
Yep.
And she gave me an answer that I'm really thankful for her. She said, if you want to take this as a challenge, will you take it as a challenge? I said, yes. Then you do this practice every single day for the next 6 months without fail, but twice a day, morning and evening. And then after that, you can stop evening or morning, whatever it is. I did that, Amrit, for not failing. It was an airport, wherever, I never
stopped. Yeah.
But then at the end of 6 months, I felt like there is nothing. I have to do it only once.
To not do it becomes weird, no? Yeah.
Yes. And then I had re-engineered my being at that time. Since 2007 to 2019, when we are talking, I have skipped yoga only 2 days. I've never skipped it. Just 2 days. So, because it's now part of my being, I cannot even say anything. I don't even think. I cannot think. In the last 10 years, I have not skipped it one day.
Amazing. There was one thing I remember that I read of yours, which was, you grow a lot by giving good help. I remember when you said this, it really stuck for me, which is finding your strengths to help people with, but then really helping people, and just the energy of just giving and not expecting in return, but also allowing the help that you're facilitating others, the caliber of it to improve you as an individual.
100% agree with you. In fact, there is a little bit of a nuance there. Shall I go ahead and share it?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like this. So any kind of book, for example, I'll use an example of a book. So no book will provide you contextual help, isn't it? So it will always provide you conceptual help. which means it will give you the concepts, and it is up to you to apply it in your context to get the result, isn't it?
Yes.
The same with you. Suppose you were a book. So on your own, you will only be able to provide conceptual help. But if somebody asks you, makes you a request, you now apply the concept that you have in the context that they have and produce the result. If 10 people come to you for the same concept, you cannot say you applied the same concept in the same context. You applied it in 10 different contexts.
You contextualized it, yes, of course.
So that is where the power is. Now what happens is, as you build your contextual expertise for the conceptual knowledge that you have, you become extremely powerful. Why? Because you become a ninja on patterns. Isn't it? Oh, if this happens, this happens. If this happens, this happens. In the game of Go, for example, it's called a Joseki. Joseki is a series of moves that will go from one equilibrium to another equilibrium. So when you know these Josekis, that means Joseki may be in real life, it may be how to win the first customer. Now, suppose you are a master at winning the first deals. If you start helping different people, the businesses these different people have are different. One of them may be selling a flower, and other person may be publishing books. The other person may be selling some widgets. So, but you are a master at winning them first deals, which is very hard for people. But you help enough people to win their first deals, you become an even better master at winning first deals, because you know contextual knowledge for your conceptual ability.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like teaching consolidates the learning in a big way as well. That's something that I definitely adhere to.
Yes, exactly. So it's one of those gifts that you give that gift and you give the gift to yourself by giving the gift to somebody else.
Isn't that such a blessing? Life is amazing, huh?
Yes.
Talking about life is amazing, one of the things you mentioned as we slipped out and slipped back in was Napkin Insights. Napkin Insights. Okay, is it one word? Is it two words? Napkin Insights or Napkin Sites?
So what I did is I booked both the domains because I knew somebody will think Napkin Insights or Napkin Sites. So I have both of them, and both of them go to the same site called napkinsites.com.
I love it. Tell me more about Napkin Sites.
So Napkin Sites is any napkin, any insight that can fit in a paper napkin is called a Napkin Insight.
Yeah.
Right? So I am of the opinion that people are bombarded with negative news everywhere. So I try to put an aha moment of something that will give an aha moment in a random place, isn't it? So when that happens, people say, "Oh!" And imagine I have 2,252 napkin sites so far on Facebook.
How many?
2,252.
That's a lot of aha moments.
Yes. And then people will get they will, because it's so small and so short, people say I don't have the time for it, and by the time they decide that they don't have the time for it, they would have consumed 5 or 6 napkins.
You get them all the goings good.
So I'll tell you the latest one I wrote.
Yes,
because
please.
I was having a conversation with someone and it inspired me to write this. So the latest one is called Past and the Future. That's the title. It says, while anyone you touched in your life will always remain in your history, there is no necessity to force fit everyone in your future. Isn't it? Now, I don't give the explanation because I want them to think.
And process, right? Yeah.
So, and then they will say, is this right? I don't expect everyone to agree with me, but my goal is to make them think.
Yeah.
I don't want them to agree with everything, right? Because I'm not God. So there is no chance that I'll say everything I say will be 100% right in 100% of the context and 100% of the time in past, present, and future. That will be too much. but it'll definitely make them think and say, sometimes people will feel guilty when some relationships strain and go away, when in fact they were never meant to be. It's like this: you are going from, let's say, from Bangalore to Delhi in a train.
Mm.
Somebody wants to travel with you from Bangalore to, let's say, Mumbai.
Mm.
And they got their destination, they have to leave the train. You cannot say, no, I'm going to Delhi, you need to come with me to Delhi, because you came to me from Bangalore. I don't want to leave. He said, but I got my station, I have to leave in Mumbai. Like, we're all travelers in our own journey. And some people will join us in part of the journey. And all we have to do is be grateful for the part they played during the time they played that part.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? You cannot say, no, you got your destination, but you don't want to leave me. You have to be with me.
Yeah.
They say they have their own path. Probably they want to go to Lucknow. They have to take another train from somewhere. Right? So you have to bless them for be grateful for who they were while they were in your life. And then when they leave and go on to their own path, bless them so that they have a good life.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a little bit, just to get super deep on this topic. Is, like, I've lost friends to actually ways of being in the past. Like, I've had to I'll just call it, I've lost one of my dearest friends just to, he didn't want to be friends with me anymore because I was consistently had a positive outlook, and that was frustrating and invigorating. And
that was negative for him.
Yeah. For him, it felt like I was losing touch with reality. And I was like, reality is completely subjective, my friend. I choose to look at it positively. And he was like, you're out of touch, you're out of whack, see you later. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's, I'm laughing now, but at the time it was, as you can imagine, losing relationships is, has all the trappings of Maya, I guess, involved in it, right? So like you have the real challenge that presents in that time. But one of the things I've been pondering recently is also, I'm, by no means forecasting like anyone passing away, but generally just having a conversation around, like realizing that your loved ones will also pass at some point, and how much attachment we have to our relationships more than anything else. Like, I know we all can see our attachment to things, and it's not necessarily positive for society and the world and the way we function, but our attachments to people are far deeper. And I know I struggle with this myself, just even thinking about certain people no longer being part of my life, not because of mental thought models or taking on positivity, but actually the hand of death coming for them. And taking them away from me one day is quite a process to process, and really inflames the insights, I guess, in terms of that you're sharing.
Have you done any work on Stoicism?
Yes.
So if you see, the Stoics have one practice. Shall we talk about it for a minute?
For sure.
So Stoics have a practice which seems very dark, but it makes you more present. I'll share what it is in the form of an example. So let's assume that there are two homes, and both of them have small families, one little daughter in each one of them. And one of the dad is a Stoic and the other dad is not. In the Stoic practice, every now and then the dad, for a brief moment, thinks that the child is no more. Not that he wishes the child to be no more. And then goes into the space and thinks, what would the world look like if the child were no more? Not ever wishing for it. But then he will realize, now that the child is there, how precious the child is for him.
What a gift and a blessing.
And the moment he does that once in every few months, Amrit, he will never be not present for the child, because he knows what the world is without the child, because people don't realize it, right? So it's what you say is so correct, and nobody can prevent death, and no, we don't want to wish anybody to go away. But what we forget is that, knowing that something like that might happen, we still are not present to them when they are there. So everything becomes special once you realize the impermanence of life, so you'll be fully present.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really profound. Something that's sitting with me at the moment in this juncture in our conversation is the things that fascinate my curiosity are generally philosophy and wisdom, behavioral psychology and all these yummy little things where, us and our interfaces with the universe and how we interact with it and, what are we creating, what are we absorbing and all that sort of stuff it continues to fascinate me. And I can see that, or I feel that, we share some strands of curiosity really deeply. What does curiosity really mean to you?
See, for me, it is whenever I meet someone, I'm always interested to know how did they reach to where they reached, because the story is always fascinating.
This comes back to you and your storyteller ways. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So when you know the path that they took to get there, it can never be not interesting.
Agreed.
Because everybody's story is super fascinating.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, curiosity is to find the puzzle pieces that actually make the puzzle. Isn't it? Everybody has those elements that will make them complete. It is their worldviews, it's their beliefs, it's their environment they grow up. It is always fascinating. For me, people talk about boredom that never exists in my life. Because if you're interacting with someone and you're curious, how can you be bored? Impossible. If you're not curious, for example, you will be bored because everything will look the same. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Curiosity and boredom cannot coexist.
I love that. I actually sometimes think about the fact that, my boredom helps me be creative, because sometimes I intentionally take time out to not be engaged with reading, not be engaged with exercise, not be engaged with, as possible, thought, devices and all this sort of stuff, to actually cultivate what I seem to think is a sense of boredom. And in that, I find creativity really to be something that really emerges in that space. But perhaps it's me being curious about what's in the epidermal layer.
If you think about it, I don't think the word boredom existed long before the computers were there, isn't it? It's basically, think about it, people didn't have anything that overstimulation is the name of the game here. Right? People need to be stimulated every now and then, because think about the number of times people check their emails to see if there is a new email that has popped in. And you ask them just for fun, are you expecting any emails? Is there a deal happening? Are you waiting for something? People say no. Is there any important thing that you have missed? No. Why are you checking your emails?
I'm Pavlov's dog.
I want to. Because what if there is something that I should be looking at? But are you expecting anything? No. But what if it's there? Because now we are so tuned to being stimulated. When there is no stimulation, you feel it's boredom. But when a few decades ago, there was not much stimulation possible. There is no internet, there is no TV, there is no nothing. I don't think people were saying they were bored because they were with the nature, isn't it? Once you disconnect yourself from the nature, and then you start expecting stimulation every now and then, as if without that your life does not exist, it becomes a problem. Now, your boredom, what you labeled as boredom, is probably the silence that you are experiencing. And obviously in silence, there is so much creativity that happens. Isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
For somebody else, if you are silent, they might think Amrit must be bored because he's not doing anything. Because people think the sign of life means people have to be doing.
Yeah.
But in reality, the sign of life is you have to be in the being. Isn't it?
It's a really profound distinction.
For the person who is always doing something and the need to do something, somebody is just in the being, they think this guy is given up on life. He's not doing anything. What is wrong with him? When the other person who is just being, he might be very blissful and happy that he is in the being state.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I like the way you frame that. It's less boredom, it's more cultivating silence. And from the silence, there's so much space for curiosity and then for creativity to emerge. I have to say, Rajesh, looking at like all the creative, I'm just going to call them exploits. There's other words for it, for sure. But look at all the creative exploits that drive you. Is creativity something that you believe is cultivated, or is it something that you actively embark upon consistently? Like there's 2,000 plus Napkin Insights now. The books keep coming. Your business ventures keep occurring. So, this essence of creativity, looking from the outside in, someone would say that you're hyper creative. Tell us a little bit about your process and why that is the case. And yeah.
See, there are some aspects of it you can train. Some aspects of it is in your mindset. So, for example, when I was in a conference with a company called 800 CEO Read, which is a big wholesale bookseller. They're very famous for selling bulk books for authors. So they conducted a conference one day, 2-day conference with 20 other authors. And then I happened to sit next to a person called Dan Rome. So he wrote the book Back of the Napkin and several books in that series. So I didn't know who was Dan before that. And then he had not published his book yet. He was saying he's writing a book called Back of the Napkin.
Yeah.
And then I was never good at drawing anything, including a circle. So when my mom told me that you should become an engineer or a doctor, my criteria to choose engineering was there is no drawing there. Right? I always worried that if I write an intestine, people will think it's a snake or something. Right? So I said, I can't draw, so let me be engineer.
Yeah.
But then Dan was of the opinion that anybody can draw. I said, anybody might be able to draw, but I am not one of those. I don't belong it. He said, come on, Raj, we can draw. I can make a person who will draw. Can you write a circle? Let's do it. And before the next 2 hours, I became confident that I can draw.
Amazing.
Now, if you think about it, there was some instruction and inspiration from Dan, but there was a mindset switch in me that I can. So both training and a mindset switch has to happen to develop a skill. The confidence has to come from within, but the instruction and inspiration can come from an external person. But once I was there, all it requires is practice. So to remember that before you become a pro, you have to go through a phase of an amateur. If you don't remember that, you give up.
Yep.
Because you will say the first few things were really bad, and you will say, I can't do it. This is impossible to me. But once you know that you are always going to be an amateur before you become a pro, then you will do it. It's like when the kid is crawling before walking and keeps falling down every time it tries to stand. The kid cannot say, I tried to stand and all. Forget it. I'll just
it's not worth it.
crawl.
I'll just keep crawling.
Right. So it'll never happen. And then every time we learned, like for example, when you first start learning to drive a car. So is it inborn or is it trainable? Of course, it's not inborn. You are not born with a car anyway. You learned it, right?
Yeah.
And then now you are a pro. Now you don't even think. You are talking to someone. You are eating some noodles in the way, and then you are trying to find the phone number of someone else. And while you are driving, and there are other people who are cutting you off the lane, and you are still not worried. And if somebody asks you exactly what did you do to drive the car, you say you don't even remember. It's in your background thinking. Same with any skill. Sometimes you need a trigger to say, I want to do this. Then there is an instruction and an inspiration so that you know how best to do it.
Yep.
But the switch has to happen from within the mind to say, I can do it and I will be good at it.
Well, one of the things that's sitting really present for me as you're articulating that is how much one of the sayings that I hear a lot is, or I use a lot actually, is perfectionism spells procrastination. So you write perfectionism, but what actually is spelt out is procrastination.
Yeah,
And
beautifully said.
what I'm realizing in what you're sharing is that actually the two key examples you gave, both of them, one of like crawling, there was no idea of perfect walking. As a child, you have
Yes.
no idea of what is the perfect walk. You just go on the amateur phase and you're happy to sort of learn the journey and the process as it comes. Same thing with driving a car. There's no, I'm going to drive this car perfectly. I'm just going to go on the journey of learning. And I think if we all took a bit more of that, like personally, just reflecting into like our businesses, into our work, into our relationships, like a relationship doesn't start off perfect. You go through your amateur phases and then you consistently work and work and work on it. And like you said, eventually after a while, it all becomes second nature.
Totally agreed. And what prevents you from becoming a pro is the thought that sometimes it gets into your head. What do other people think of my skill?
Yeah.
Once you get that out of your head, right?
Yeah.
So basically, you start enjoying for the sake of doing that skill, not worry about the end result. Magic happens. Like, for example, I write a napkin site, I post it on Facebook. Sometimes I see who is somebody liked it or not, but in reality, what I'm using Facebook is as a file transfer mechanism from me to my designer friend in Malaysia called Ming. So rather than emailing him my written napkin site, I say there is Facebook. It's free to transfer files there. I post it there, and he will pick it up and he will make it look really, really beautiful. But we use this as a file transfer mechanism.
Yeah.
Now, along the way, some people like it, comment it, good for me and good for them, but I'm not expecting anything.
Yeah.
All I want to do is this file transferred to Ming in Malaysia? And it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you're sharing here is one of the deepest insights I've had, and I carry for a while, is being like the peace and the calm and the creativity. So many things emerge out of this space. I can list a whole stuff of them, but let me just say what it is. So being process oriented rather than outcome oriented is kind of what I'm hearing you say here.
Correct. There is no other way, because if you think about it, if you go back to the scriptures in our Gita, what it says is you have the right to the actions, but not the right to the fruits of that action. But that does not mean that you can skip the action. That is chapter 2, verse 47 in Bhagavad Gita, right? So once you internalize it, there is a lot of peace of mind, because said in the newer terms, I use the term called optionality. That means in the Go game, there is a term called MIAI, M-I-A-I. So suppose I'm playing black and you are playing white, and then I am in a position that I have what is called as MIAI. That means you try to kill me from the right, I have a position in the left, I'll go there. If you try to kill me from the left, I have a position in the right, I'll go there. So you will never be able to kill me because I have what is called as MIAI, optionality. I have optionality.
Right.
Now, water is a good example of optionality.
Yeah, isn't
if
it?
you think about it, water starts flowing and it wants to reach the sea or the ocean. And it hits upon a boulder and it says, what are my options? Up, down, left, right. I'll use one of them. It says right is blocked. Okay, they will go to the left. Left is blocked. I'll go to the right. Both are blocked. I'll go top. Both top is blocked. I'll go to the bottom. But it will not stop. But once you create a mindset of optionality like water, you are never perturbed, because when one door closes, if you keep focusing on the closed door, there is no path forward. But if you say, that door is closed, let me see where else is there. No doors are open. What about a window? Oh, it's there. What about the roof? What about the chimney? I keep looking at it and I keep looking for options.
The flow that's available. Yeah, that's really incredible. So that optionality that you're speaking of, having consistent options, but then when you're trying to guide yourself forward to a certain, is it an intention for you personally that you use through your creative process? Is it like an intention that will guide you?
Yeah, the direction is important, but the exact path should have many options, because no path is guaranteed to be foolproof, isn't it? There is always breakdowns, and in fact, think about it this way. If that is not there, that is when you will be bored.
Some paths are foolproof though, because I've walked some of them.
Yes. So if you think about it, you think of something, I want to do it, and then it happens flawlessly. And then you think of something, you want to do it, it happens flawlessly. Think of something, it happens flawlessly. What do you think will happen? You will be bored. You need adventure. People say, I don't want uncertainty. You remove all uncertainty from their life, they will be bored.
It's bland.
It's very bland.
There's no salt or pepper even.
Exactly. So people, we have to be careful what we wish for. Because sometimes God might say, oh, okay, remove all the uncertainty from your life. And then they say, there is no life. So, in fact, if there are no constraints, there is no growth either. You may hate constraints, but you don't want to give up growth. So you might as well say, constraints give me growth. Okay, don't remove the constraints, but increase my skills so that I can overcome those constraints and keep growing.
Wow, that's profound. Yeah, it's your boundaries that help you grow.
Exactly. And that's why don't say, oh, no, please remove my boundaries. No. Let the boundaries improve my skills.
Within those boundaries, and then at a certain point you will expand beyond those boundaries again to move into the next phase. One of those things about boundaries, thank you so much for articulating all of that. I've heard, and one of the things that really inspired me to connect actually at the seed of this podcast, so it's really cool that we're having this conversation now, is, we talked about, I caught you off guard. I caught you talking about how we basically function in circles and tribes. And for the most part, it's like we evolve with our tribe. And we're like we kind of maintain that behavior. But one of the key things that really stuck with me, and has been, I have to admit, my intention for this year from the beginning of the year, not necessarily for these reasons, but this is how I came across you in my research, was you said that kindness, right, is, or I think you mentioned it being super nice is an extreme advantage. Right?
That is true.
Because it helps you transcend even your tribe, and your tribal awareness is such a primitive function for the mind. It's so intrinsic to our interactions, to everything we do. A lot of, you could argue about society and capitalism is about finding the right mate. And so that's even tribal, But you spoke to kindness and niceties as like a way to hack the system almost. Is that correct? Can you tell us more about that?
100% right.
Please tell us more. Yeah.
So let me tell you how it happens. If you think about it, we are always going in circles within our tribes. What is a tribe? A tribe is a group of people that have the similar power and capacity to make things happen. Like, for example, there are a bunch of, I'll use money as one example. There are a bunch of people who are millionaires. And then there is a billionaire who comes into the tribe. And then immediately they will see that there is out of sync. These people are thinking about buying an apartment complex. He's thinking of buying an island. And they're thinking of hacking the travel so that they can get a free upgrade from business class to first class. He's thinking of buying the next jet plane. So after some time, there is out of sync, isn't it? Because the capacity to get things done is the defining criteria in a tribe. So it need not be the exact same things, but in general, the size and nature of the things that they can get done is the same power they have. But what happens, and then when you increase the power and capacity to get things done, you move to the next tribe who have the similar power and capacity to get the similar things done. So you keep moving, and then along the way, you reach a stage when it's after some time with certain power, then it becomes egalitarian, because it need not be tribes, because then there won't be many tribes that will say he's a billionaire and he's a 10 billion. After some time, you can get things done with anything you want, with the money you have and the influence you have. But until that time, you keep growing in tribes. But when you are super nice and super kind, there is an advantage. Even if you don't belong to that tribe, because you are such a nice person, they will say, you know what, let him be here. And it's never spoken out loud. It's just in actions. They welcome you. And when they welcome you, knowing that your power and capacity to get things done is not same as theirs, they still welcome you. Now what happens? They start including you in their conversations. The conversations are what will raise the capacity and power to get things done, because you start thinking like them. And very soon, your power and capacity will be equivalent to that of those in the tribe. And then something good happens. You can jump the tribe again into the next tribe where your capacity and power to get things done is not equivalent to them. But because you are nice and kind, they'll say, you know what, let him or her stay, because he's such a nice person to have and he's very kind. We want him in the tribe. Again, the nature of conversations will keep lifting your capacity and power to get things done. So if you're super nice and super kind, obviously you need to have certain competence. You cannot use super nice and super kind as proxies for incompetence. That won't work. Otherwise,
that's a good disclaimer. Yeah, totally.
Otherwise, you will be there, but you will be the joker of the tribe, right? You will be the clown. So that's not where you want to be. You want to be treated in an egalitarian fashion, not to be treated as a clown in the group, right? But when it is all real, then you have an unfair competitive advantage. That's why I say nice people will win all the time, as long as they are reasonably competent. Because you don't have to be 100% superstars, but the conversations that they're having with the superstars in the tribe slowly lift their capacity and power to get things done.
I think it's really interesting that you're sharing that nice guys win when there's such a saying in society that nice guys finish last. And I think just the collective programming,
Yeah, and also sometimes, there is society, they make things up, but nobody questions them. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So when have you heard of the phrase "slow and steady wins the race"?
Yes.
So as soon as you hear it, what is the story that comes to your mind?
Patience. Oh, the hare and the turtle.
Okay, let's play that out, Amrit. Let's assume that there is a hare and the turtle race happening in 1,000 cities across the world. 1,000 cities right now. What are the chances that in how many races the hare will say, you know what, I'll sleep in the middle of the race? What are the chances?
Stop it, Rajesh. When you make sense, you get into trouble. Stop making sense.
So what happens is,
yeah, you're right.
It's a flawed story to create a conclusion that is flawed, but the stories numb people's thinking.
Yep.
So when you say the story is flawed, because there is no reason for the hare unless it's a really lazy hare.
Yeah.
Right? And really productive tortoise. They start running a race. It's 1 in a million chance. Hare will never sleep in the middle of the race. But now they made up a flawed story, and then they created a conclusion that they say it's not flawed. How is it even possible? But now they teach it in primary schools, and then they're teaching flawed thinking. I say slow and steady wins the race, when there is nobody else who is fast and steady. So there are a lot of things in life, when it is said again and again and again, there is a need to revisit it.
Yep.
And revisit and see. We have to go to the first principles. When somebody tells a story, because of that, we need to do this. Okay, well, let's see if the story is right or flawed. Because you are making the conclusion based on the story. There is another one story, fisherman and the fisherman and the millionaire or something like that. So in that, so there is a fisherman who is resting on the beach. So there is a millionaire who comes and says, it's only 2:00. Why are you sleeping? He said, oh, I caught all the fish that I want. Now I can sleep. He said, can you imagine if you went fishing for 4 more hours, don't you think you will have a little bit more fish? He said, yes. And then? And the millionaire says, then you can sell more and you can make some more money. And then he goes on and on and on and on. So he builds an empire. Finally, the millionaire says, the fisherman says, and then you can rest in the afternoon. But that's what I'm doing now. Now, you see the amount of flawed thinking in this story. To make a point that is also flawed, is what they say is the first scenario and the second scenario are exactly the same. In the first scenario, the fisherman has no capacity to handle any emergencies because he's living hand to mouth.
Yep.
Something happens, somebody meets with some debilitating disease or something, he has no way to do it. The second case, that the millionaire is what is advising the fisherman, is that he's resting, but he has enough capacity to handle any emergencies, not only his emergencies, probably the emergencies of his neighbors or relatives or loved ones or anyone. But the way the sarcasm inside the story is, the millionaire is a fool because he has no idea what he is doing. You should not work hard. You should just rest, because when you finally work hard, all you can do is rest. And they forget that the $1 million in the bank is an insurance policy, not just for them, for anybody else, any of their loved ones. I'm not saying that greed is good. I'm saying irresponsibility is bad. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you for discerning that. I want to ask you a personal question, which is, from there, there's many places where there are these stories, there are these parables, some intentionally, some less intentionally designed to, as you put it, numb our thinking. They have invested within them and these seeds of flawed thinking. How do you discern your way through this to keep the anvil of your mind sharp?
See, if you think about, let's take about internet marketing. I'll use that example to bring out a point. Somebody says, put this ad, it'll work. Somebody says, no, put this ad, but make the button red. Somebody else says, give some space in between, because actually cut short the last, buy now, add buy now, and then it'll work. So many people have so many saying, what do internet marketers do? They will say, we'll test it. Isn't it?
Yep.
Nobody will say, as long as it is reasonable request, they will say, I'm going to test it.
Yep.
So same in life. There is no A/B testing in life, but we can do some small tests to see if it works. Isn't it? So the problem is, you think something will work, and without testing, you start believing that it will work. That is where the flawed thinking is. There are ways to test things. That's why, like you said, perfectionism is equivalent to procrastination. Why? Because in the name of perfectionism, you keep tinkering without showing it to anyone. Then you will never be able to make progress. So only when you can be vulnerable and say that I don't know if it will work, but I'm going to try it. And you be comfortable with yes or no, success or failure, then automatically things happen. And you learn by experience rather than hunch.
Yeah, I think that's, and thank you so much for sharing that. That's really profound and really, really pragmatic and really practical. And I think that has been like one of the biggest things that I've taken away from this entire episode and these conversations that we've had. We've talked about many different things, but consistently found ways to really ground it in and make it practical. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm really inspired in the moment to, just reflect back to you, just this having this spiritual context, this philosophical context, but consistently testing it against, like, how does this actually fare in my day-to-day life? How does it actually serve? Where does it not serve but still promotes my growth? And just having all these, integrations of your spirituality into your day-to-day walk.
There is also one more reason to help a lot of people, which is also you help a lot of people that will help you back in manyfold. I'll give you one example.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I told you there is a conceptual knowledge. The application happens in a contextual schema, isn't it? So now imagine you are helping 10 entrepreneurs become successful with your own skill. Your skill may be having the right mindset. But having the right mindset in different contexts mean different things, the practical aspects of it. But you keep doing it because you want to help them. But what is happening is your own ability to apply the right mindset in different contexts is growing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Which means your own capacity to apply in a brand new context keeps going. And it's not only growing in capacity, it's also growing in the context of speed. Because very soon somebody asks you a question, Amrit, what should I do? Within a matter of seconds, you say, this is what you need to do. And for somebody else, it looks like magic. For you, it looks like one more context, applying the same concept in one more context.
Yep.
That's why I keep telling people, especially the young people, just go and help people without worrying about getting anything, because it's a mislabeling that they're not getting anything. What they're getting is the confidence and the capability to apply this conceptual knowledge in a different context at rocket speed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember when I started out with my speaking career, just even like I would pay for flights and accommodation to go speak overseas just for the opportunity to speak, because I'd be learning the craft and the art of, speaking, and just that, that was so invaluable, just the opportunity to go. And whereas people were, oh no, I'm not going to do that because I'm not getting reimbursed for it. It's like financially not viable for me to go. It's like, no, like this is me investing in my education. This is like, yeah. So I totally resonate with that.
And then when you make it and you start getting paid speaking engagements, then there are people who are sitting on the sidelines and they can say, this Amrit guy, he's really lucky.
Yeah,
always he's in the right time and the right place with the right people. Yeah. So lucky. Me, I don't get any of those opportunities. He, on the other hand, because luck is something that people use to define other people's hard work and the fruits of it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories to tell is, there's this guy, musician, plays an amazing piece. At the end of the concert, everybody comes up to him and said, oh, you're so talented. You're so talented. And he's like, no, I practiced. And they're like, no. And it's like they don't even hear him say what he said. Right. They're like, oh my God, you're so talented. You're so gifted, like God has been so gracious to you. And he's sitting there's like, no, I practiced.
Yeah, because that's work.
Yeah, and then everyone's like, but you're so talented, so gifted. And after a while, he starts getting frustrated because he's like, man, people think I didn't put in any work.
Yes.
But he practiced. Yeah, totally.
I did some research, Amrit, on because of my other startup that I have called Advisor, right? Which is basically we have micro podcasts from world-class experts in 3 minutes or less.
Awesome.
And then to make a case for it, I wanted to find out why people don't completely read books. They read books, but they don't finish them. I'm sure you and I have enough friends, and I'm sure we are also guilty of it.
Totally.
If we start reading a book and we don't finish it, and then there's a new thing comes and we start reading it, and there's a book graveyard, which are filled with zombies, not really dead, but half dead.
Yes.
The zombie books are flying around in our
I have a
bookshelves.
couple of zombie books following me around for sure.
Yes. So I wanted to find out why does this happen, and I found that very very interesting. So here is what happens in a typical nonfiction book. The first chapter is always fun to read. It'll say, let me tell you a story. What happened when I was growing up was blah blah blah, and then people say, what happened? What happened? And then the second chapter is about what will be in the book. In the first section, I'm going to say this. In the second section, I'm going to say this. In the third section, finally, you will be a world-class speaker. I want that. And the third chapter is where a little bit of stretching requires. If you want to be a world-class speaker, one of the things you need is discipline. To make sure that you have discipline, make sure that every day you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then you're not an early riser. You say, oh my God, I don't want to wake up in the 5 o'clock.
The book is slipping out of your hand.
But you don't give up.
Yeah,
you say,
but it's starting to slip.
I don't wake up, but that's okay. I'll go to the next chapter. And then the next chapter builds on this previous chapter. It says, now that you woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, make sure that you are fully disciplined. I want you to practice 30 minutes of yoga. But I don't know yoga. Well, you can go to yoga class. I don't want to do it, but I continue to read. Okay, great. Now it's 5:30 in the morning. You finish your shower and brushing and all those things. When you're fresh, before anybody wakes up, I want you to plan the day. Before 6:30, you find out the top 3 things you will do. And how you will know the top 3 things is based on the value you create. This is a lot of work. I think I want to stop reading this book. I want to get another book. There should be an easier book. Like you said, they want talent that is implanted in somebody's head, not the practice, the talent that comes with practice.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. I would definitely be checking out the micro podcast. I think that's a really cool space to create and innovate in. So, Raj, I'm conscious I have booked in your time forever. And I can continue to talk to you. I feel like there is such a wealth of wisdom and we share such deep passions, and you're just like, for those listening to the podcast, I think I can speak for everybody. Just even in the little sentences, there's just nuggets of wisdom are just being spilt, like, it's just milk or something and it doesn't even matter, but it's like it's just everywhere. All the little sentences have so many profound nuggets, and I'm really grateful for just your time and energy and presence here. So now I just want to tune in. Is there anything that you feel compelled that you really want to share with everybody before we start wrapping things up?
You have to be careful when you ask a teacher any such question. Fish swim, birds fly, teacher teaches. So you should,
I like that. I'm gonna steal that one. Fish swim, birds fly, and teachers teaches. Yeah.
What else can they do? And if you give a blank canvas to a teacher, I'll say, okay, Amrit, how much time do we have? I want to start with the course, but I'll leave you with one. Right?
Please.
It is basically to be conscious of who is renting your mental space.
Boom! I love that. Yeah.
It's extremely important because I catch people when they say something like, that Rob, he told me this and he should not have said that. And I always ask them, tell me something. How important is Rob in your life? I don't care about him. You don't care about him and you're carrying him in your mental space? What is wrong with you? He is not that important. Why is the words that he said become so important in your life that it is stopping you from doing something more important than Rob? So it's very easy for us to get carried away by things that should not be in the mental space. The more clean your mental space is, the more creative you are. And for that matter, any obligation that you think others have, that you think others owe you, if you clear them, half the problems are gone. Like, for example, any of my friends, I don't expect anybody to keep in touch with me ever. So I always tell them that we should keep in touch. I said, you'll always be my friend. You never have to keep in touch with me.
Mm.
Our strength of the relationship is not dependent on the frequency of the touch points that we
Connection.
have.
Yep.
But we am connected at heart. I always say this. If I like someone, I give them a one-way ticket to my heart. When they reach there, it's Hotel California.
I love that.
So when you keep less and less expectations from people and clear the mental space, the productivity shoots through the roof. How do you know it? For me, the body never lies. If I want to sleep, let's say we make a game here, Amrit, and say, hey, can you sleep in next 30 seconds? I close my eyes, put my head in the back, I can sleep in the next 30 seconds. Why? Because I have zero things in my brain. The mental space is very clear.
Right.
And if you try this and say, everything is figure outable, and you just don't worry about anything and don't expect anything from anyone, half the problems are solved. You will be super creative. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Something that is coming up for me is, what about trying to keep like Rob in this story was someone that wasn't someone that you care so much about, but let's say these expectations are of someone that you do really care about. Let's say a family member, a sister, a mother, a father, a brother. What if you're interfacing with the expectations of someone like that?
That's a very good question. It's an Oscar level question, Amrit. So, and it always comes up with me. See, in the circle of love, right? My teacher, I have a friend called Maria Callis. She is sort of a very spiritual teacher. She always, she taught me one exercise that there are two things two lessons I'll share. So one exercise, the exercise is called heart bridging. So heart bridging means when I'm interacting with you, I can build a bridge, which is invisible bridge between my heart and your heart, right? And if you do that consciously and unconsciously, you make it a habit, build a connection of love between two people, and then when people who care about know that you have no other agenda but the goodness for them and the well-being of them, you will automatically see that they will be more responsive to you. The problem comes if we are sending mixed signals that they have one more agenda there and they don't know what exactly is the agenda. Then they say, is it really caring? What does he want? What is the real story here? How the problems start coming. And the other thing is, you can never, they say, there's an old saying that you can't open the petals of a flower before it blooms, isn't it? So if you think about it, there is a time and place for everything. So what is the priority for you may not be priority for them, isn't it?
Yep.
So because you both are different people, and as long as they know that you will give them the space to blossom in the way they will blossom, and you will not be overbearing for them, automatically they will start coming to you for some help and advice. But if they think that all you want to do is make them do things the way you want them to do, then even if they come, they're mentally closed. So the space with which they will operate has to be their space and not our space defined for them.
Right.
And one more thing that you can think of, especially if they're young people from family, you help them play out the scenario that they want to play out. Like, for example, there are two paths. One is the right path, the other is the not so right path. But the young people do not play out all the paths for the second order and third order derivatives of it. What happens if they go in the path? They don't have the time to think because they are not mature enough. They will say, I think my path is the right path. And why is not your path? Because it's your path. My path is my path. That is the right path. At that time, all you can do is take them along the path and make them see what all happens if they take that path without being sarcastic. Very important, because if they can see the body language very quickly. If you have a smirk in your face and say, "Oh, you want to do that? Okay, try that." Only idiots do that.
Yeah, you've negated. Yeah.
Then all it requires, everything is gone. But in the sense, you start saying, "Okay, there are two ways to do this. Let us think through everything that you are saying. Maybe your path is the right path. Let's say what happens when you reach that milestone. What happens? Let's think through it together." You have to make them discover things rather than instruct them.
Yeah,
isn't it? Because if you instruct them, it becomes your strategy. If you let them discover it, it becomes their strategy.
Agreed. Yeah, profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for your time and presence here today. Also, the last time we dropped in to have the first half of this chat. And also, Rajesh, thanking you for all the work you do on yourself and put into the being that is present as part of this conversation. It's not just this moment in time, but I'm just conscious that there's a human being is a life's work. So just thanking you for putting in that work to having such an informed and wonderful conversation here today.
It is one of those things, Amrit. You are giving me the gift of space to express myself. I should be the one who should be thanking you for giving me the space, asking good questions, making things come out of my brain to the world. So you got the sequence all wrong. you have to say, "Rajesh, we are ending this show. It's your time to thank me." Yes, Amrit, thank you so much for taking the time to get me on the show.
But you taught me about kindness, so what I will say is, Rajesh, you're welcome, and then you can thank me. I won't demand. I'll just say you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm sure whoever is listening to the podcast, they'll be entertained. That's why I always say, people, when you have a meeting with me, entertainment is guaranteed. Sometimes there is some enlightenment, but it's optional.
I love that. And as always, wishing you all the best for all the humor and all the enlightenment on the journey. And I feel really blessed to be connected with you in this space. For those that also wish to get connected and find out more about what's up in the world of Rajesh Setty, what's the best place to discover or uncover? There are so many things in your world. What's the best place to touch base?
There are two things that I can think of. One is, I want to give the link to the micro podcast service, because not just me, there are 130 world-class experts who have given their brilliance and wisdom in 3 minutes or less. I just calculated suppose we get all the 131 experts to come and speak at an event. The speaking fees for them will be more than $2.7 million. So rather than paying that, they can pay a small fee, and then they can get the wisdom of all those people at the push of a button. It's called Advisor, AUDVISOR.com. And that's something that I want people to benefit from, because I use my own service to say, every day if I spend 3 to 5 minutes, I'll get one nugget of wisdom. And for 3 to 5 minutes every single day, if I do it, I am wiser by 365 insights from like 130 experts.
Amazing.
So you can't beat that. In between meetings or in the commute and anything, you just push a button and keep doing it.
Snackable wisdom. I love it.
Yes. And then if they want some entertainment with a minute pinch of enlightenment, they can go to napkinsights.com.
Awesome.
And then so it depends on if they have a short attention span, they can go to Advisor. If the attention span is micro or mini, then they can go to Napkin Insights.
I love it.
Everything I do is for ADD people, which is almost everyone in the earth.
Yeah, which I think technology has rendered us this way to a certain degree and extent, to be honest. But it's a blessing, because we do get the snackable snackable insights and the content. So thank you for that. And I'll definitely link those to the show notes below, wherever you're consuming this podcast from. And I just want to take a moment to thank you all for tuning in to what has been an gorgeous episode of The Inspired Evolution. Thank you again, Rajesh, and you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Amrit. It was a pleasure.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Love of the Inspired Evolution and sharing the Love of the Inspired Evolution. If you feel like this content has supported you or may support anyone else that you know may resonate with the content of it, please share away and share the love around. Thank you guys so much. And to stay up to date on whatever's coming out with the Inspired Evolution, please subscribe. There's all these links in the bio for you to tune into the episodes and all these different platforms, just so the message can get to you and your loved ones. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Stay inspired to evolve.